I had nothing to do with it, said Pilate, mostly to himself, but also to his inconsolable wife. You see, her sleepless night of torment and words of warning had held no sway over her obviously shaken and shuddering husband. I had nothing to do with it. You see, he pretended that he could pose and posture and politicize his way out of a guilty by association political sentence on the darkest day that the world had ever seen. I had nothing to do with that man or his unfortunate end. He called after his servant, who brought the bowl sloshing with water at his master's beckoning. A bowl full of nothing more than a pathetic, aseptic, cosmetic, hygienic solution to what is an eternal and an internal infection. An infection that, may I remind you, was first contracted by choice. Oh yes, and its pollution is still spreading today. That unrelenting virus whose insuppressible effects have ravaged generations of sin-soaked, sin-sick, and sin-sore souls. Can I get an amen? That infection was what brought the man that turned the world upside down before a court that was upside down. An innocent man who was before an already guilty judge in a grotesque parody of justice. It was not my problem, outside of my jurisdiction, insisted Pilate, years later, still unable to sleep through the night without waking up in a cold sweat. It was an affair of the Jews, a religious dispute, something that was to be dealt with and settled and silenced and sequestered away so that we could all go to lunch. That's still what it is, isn't it? I mean, a religious dispute, an intrusion upon the ordinary, if you will, an inconvenience on the calendar, something that comes around every year to be dutifully noted so that we can all check a box, get back to business. But what I want to know is whose story is it? And whose problem is it? Somebody, please, tell me. Because you know what? I gotta get this blood off my mind, right? I need a new prescription, a new addiction to silence these voices. I need a distraction for the extraction of my guilt, or else I'm going to lose my sanity over the sanitation that's required to get rid of this nagging, this gnawing. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's that neurosis-inducing low hum of anxiety that we will never escape until we admit that we were there. And you were there, and you were there. But you know what? I was there. It was my fist that struck at the face of the firstborn of creation, and my spit that spat on the man whose own spit had cured a blind man of his sight, and a man who had never seen a tree or a sunrise or a woman before that day. It was my voice that called out in a bloodthirsty throng to crucify him, crucify, crucify. He looked down. You know what he said? He said, Father, don't hold it against them. My hands drove iron into the hands of the one who formed the heights of the Himalayas and carved out the craters of the Grand Canyon. And you know what else? He knit together the valves and the tubes and the corridors of my putrid heart. It was my hands that thrust the spear into the side of the man who had just been crying out to his daddy in agony. There is blood on my hands. There is mud in my soul. This is my problem. I had every everything to do with this, and there's nothing that I can do about it. There's nothing that I can do.